Hi, it's me, your friendly neighborhood journalism teacher. Alright, so today we're going to find out a little bit about Lightroom. I'm going to admit to you that I don't know everything that it does. I know several things that are really helpful to us, and so that's why I'm talking to you about Lightroom today. Here's a picture of my mom. I'll bet you could tell she was my mother. And then on the right, that's my son Zane. He's my oldest. So just so you know who that is, that's who that is. It's kind of funny. But anyway, those are my peeps. And the reason why that picture happens to be there is that this was the last photo that I imported into Lightroom the last time I used it. Now, when you open Lightroom, this gray area will be empty and it will ask you to import photos. So it is going to look a little different to you from the get-go, but that's all right. Once you import those photos, they'll always be there every time you open it, just so you know. So I've decided that this year we are going to edit our photos lightly. We're going to do all of our light editing in Lightroom, and then anything that's a specialty move, we're going to do in Photoshop. And there's some real specific reasons why, and the biggest one is that Lightroom makes it much, much easier to get it right. So that's why. So the first thing you have to do when you are in Lightroom is kind of look around, I guess. We have the library function, which is where we are now, and this allows you to kind of look through the pictures you've already imported, to select things. You can look at them on a grid. See, here's like a grid. This is from my trip to Ohio not too long ago. You can look at your previous imports. You can have a little inset of one photo if you like it. You can kind of arrow through things if you have more than one screen full. You can also change the size of your thumbnails. You can make them big. You can make them small. So if you need to glance at more photos because you're looking for one specific one and you kind of know what it looks like, you can use that slider. You can put them in any kind of order that you want. If you rate the photos, like as in, I give this one 4 stars, then you can do it by rating. You can do label text. You can do a label color. So I want all the green ones. You can do edit time, like what time you edited it last or the time that it was taken. Yeah, because that information is embedded in the picture. So you can do that. You can do it by file name, extension type, aspect ratio, anything you want. So kind of cool. You can also sort your pictures alphabetically and backwards alphabetically, and this is for marking. You can paint the picture for whatever reason you'd want to do that. I really don't 100% understand much about Painter, but there it is anyway. All right, so let's say we are going to, I should probably talk about this. This is a histogram. The histogram shows you the spread of the colors and the exposure. It also gives you the information about how the photo was taken. So this is your ISO. It was at 200, which is a decent number. You don't really want a high ISO. A high ISO is going to make it grainy. 18 millimeters, this is the focal length. That has to do with your zoom. The higher that number is, the further the zoom was. The smaller it is, that means it was not zoomed in, but more zoomed out. This is the size of your aperture, right, and it'll tell you that. And here's your shutter speed for your original photo, which is pretty neat, I think. And then we have some things under Quick Develop, which we're not going to worry about right now. But you can do things like up the exposure a little bit, if you like it, and notice what it's doing to my little thumbnail over here that's highlighted. I'm not a big fan of overexposing my pictures, so there you go. Generally, you want your histogram spread to be fairly even and not too much on one side or the other, because that shows that it's either, if it's over here, it is probably, I think it's overexposed, over here is underexposed, and when it's spread in the middle, it's doing pretty well, right? You can also enhance the clarity a little bit. The vibrance turns up the color dials a little bit so that you have brighter colors. You can see how the histogram changes when I click it. And you can just reset it if you don't like anything. You can also change the white balance to auto if you want to, and that will sort of warm up the picture a little bit, or change the white balance is where your camera decides what color white is, and that's how it determines the color for everything else. So if the color seems a little off or a little like drab in your picture, then you can go here and go to auto, and it will change it. Did you notice that? Here, I'll show you again. Look at this photo number 11. I'm going to change white balance back to as shot, and you'll see it's rather cold. We have a lot of blue spiking up here in the light. Now if we change it to auto, suddenly it's less blue. The greens are a little bit more, and the wood here, because this is a wood bridge, is a lot warmer. So it may be something that you really like, and it may be something that maybe you don't. I don't know. So here's a closer look at it. Here's as it was shot, and here's auto, which I think is a little bit, maybe a little bit nicer. Still a little underexposed. It was a cloudy day at the time, so you know, you can always play around with it. I kind of like the cloudy day. But anyway, that is one way. If your coloration looks a little weird, you can adjust this white balance and it might fix it for you. And we had some problems with coloration last year, so this might be your first line of defense when you are working with trying to color correct a photo. Now, all this keywording and metadata, this has to do with how you decide to save things and how you want to search for things. I'm not interested in going there this year. Maybe next year, as I learn more, I'll do something with that. But right now, we're going to leave that part alone. All right, so let's go ahead and import. We're going to go to File and Import Photos and Video, because yes, you can do videos in Lightroom as well. Now, my computer is a little slow, so now you have to select a source where you're going to get your photos from. If you have a camera card, it will read your camera card. I don't have a camera card in my computer right now, so I'm going to look for some pictures wherever I can find them. Alright, here are some pictures. I've already brought those in, I think. I'm not sure. Okay, maybe not there. Let's see what I have here. Public pictures. No photos. Alright, so I guess I'm going to have to go back over to my desktop. And I'm going to maybe bring in something. Okay, football summer practice. Those are pictures of my stepdaughter's wedding. Alright, so now I'm in football summer practice. That'll automatically default to all photos. Unclick that because you're not going to want to import every photo. You want to import just the photos you want to edit. Alright, so let's say you're not sure which ones you want. You make your thumbnails bigger so you can kind of see what they are. Like this one is kind of dumb. I don't know why I took that picture. I'm really not sure. So I'm not going to bring that in. That's sort of a mistake, right? I'm going to look at a couple of photos. I want to take this one, and I'm going to take this one, and maybe, let's see, this one, because they have some potential. Right? I see a little potential there. So I'm going to just import those three. So I click Import, and now it's bringing them in. Now it'll only show you your newest import unless you want to look for another import, which you can do later. That's not a big deal. Alright, so I've got these three. I feel like that's pretty good, so I'm going to click Done. And of course we can see already right off the bat that we have problems, right? That these are way underexposed. Now I did that on purpose. Now, for the record, I want you to know this was the most awkward photo thing I have had to do in a long time, which was I wanted to take pictures of the football team practicing for the July one of the July spreads in our yearbook, and the problem was they were inside lifting weights, and I didn't have time to come back 2 hours later or whenever they were going to be out there. So now I had to go into the weight room, and Mr. Hood was very gracious about it. He was just like, "Sure, come on in." I'm like, "I don't know, it feels kind of creepy." So I took a few shots and left because it was kind of uncomfortable for me. But anyway, that's a side note. So you can see that I shot these underexposed for a reason. I didn't want to blind them with the flash. I have the flash off. So I've got some issues. I'm going to go ahead and fix my white balance just a little bit. I'm just going to change it to auto for now. If that coloration ends up looking weird, I'll change it again later. Because Lightroom is non-destructive, it does not destroy the original photo, it just saves a new layer of it so that you can go back and change things if you want to, which is nice. Alright, so I'm going to go in here to develop. I've selected a picture that I want to develop, and I'm going to click develop. You can see that even though I've fixed the white balance, it is a little bit off. And also, now that I can see it better, we're looking at this picture. This is an example of a picture that you would not want to use, like maybe ever in a yearbook. And here's why. This, right? This, talk about awkward, right? That's awkward right there. And so we're going to delete this one because we don't want this to accidentally make it into the yearbook. So we're going to go down here, and I'm going to right click on it and click remove photo. Get that awkward out of there, and I'm just going to remove it from Lightroom. You can delete it from the disk if you like. Now we just have this one and this one. Okay, so we've got some issues. Let's correct some things. First, you'll notice these triangles on our histogram. They're showing that there's a little bit of overexposure, and that's what this red is right here. It'll turn red if it's overexposed, and then it's obviously mostly underexposed. One way to deal with that is to click on the histogram and drag some things over. So I'm just dragging to the right, and you can see, ta-da, it is far better as far as the exposure is concerned. Now this overexposed patch, we really can't get rid of this without underexposing the rest, right? Here we go. We're going to move it over and do the best we can. And here, this looks like a pretty normal picture, and the beauty of it is that the ISO is low enough that it's not going to look all blotchy and weird. So when you take a picture, make sure your ISO is not too high, because if it is, it's going to be a problem. Alright, so we're going to also crop this photo, because if you notice, it kind of leans to the left a little bit, so I want to straighten that out. So I'm going to go over here to this crop overlay. And so when you click on it, it makes the crop box. And if you hover over one of the corners, you're going to see how the cursor changes. Notice how it changes. And that means that you can rotate it. Now, I like to use the guidelines to help me line things up. This bar right here is what I was kind of looking at to see if I could make it happen, right? Also, you may notice the rule of thirds. We want that face to be as close in at that rule of thirds as possible. But I also don't want to change this to a weird shape, and I don't want my designer to feel like they can't use the photo afterwards. So you got to be really careful. Now, in a perfect world, I would have maybe taken this photo in a way that the face would have been moved over more, but this is going to work for us, right? He's looking this way, so I really need to have some space on this side, so this is going to be the best we can do there. Alright, so that is, basic cropping and fixing exposure and color. Now down here there's a lot of other things, and that's for a different tutorial because we don't have time to go over those things in this particular tutorial. But I'm going to export this photo so you can see what to do. You go to File, Export, and we're almost out of time, so I guess I'm going to skip that part, so I'm going to cancel that. Alright, thanks for watching. In the next video, we're going to learn a little more about exporting and a little more about what we can do to edit photos. Thanks!